Welcome to The Explainer. In a world that feels more and more divided, we've all been there, right? You're trying to have a conversation with someone who just won't listen to reason. It's frustrating. Well, today, we're going to look for some answers in the surprisingly practical and very sharp wisdom of the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. So let's kick things off with a warning I'm sure you've heard before. Mark Twain's line here isn't just a clever joke, it really captures a deep truth about why some arguments feel so pointless. And it turns out that's a truth that Schopenhauer took very, very seriously. Because, hey, before you can find a solution to a problem, you first have to know what you're actually dealing with. You need a proper diagnosis. So let's turn to our guide for today, the famously pessimistic but brilliantly insightful philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, to really understand the nature of the problem itself. Okay, so Schopenhauer, well, he wasn't exactly an optimist. He believed the world isn't governed by logic or reason at all. Instead, he said everything, you, me, the universe, is driven by this chaotic, irrational, striving force he called the will. In his view, our human reason is just this paper-thin layer on top of all that chaos. So for him, stupidity isn't the exception, it's the default setting for humanity. Intelligence, that's the rare and often pretty isolating glitch in the system. And this is exactly why, according to Schopenhauer, intelligent people can feel so exhausted and just alienated by everyday life. It's because they see through all the social games and performances, what he called a perpetual comedy, while everyone else seems totally fine playing along. Ever feel that kind of disconnect? That's precisely the friction he's talking about. Now, what's really fascinating is that when Schopenhauer used the word stupidity, he wasn't just throwing around an insult. No, he had a very specific, almost clinical definition for it. For him, it meant a fundamental failure of the mind to grasp causation, the inability to see the connection between a cause and its effect. He actually told this story about a boy in an asylum who was completely captivated by his own reflection in a monocle. The boy couldn't understand that it was a reflection. He was convinced there was a real, separate object inside the glass. And that's the key right there. It's not that the boy couldn't learn facts, it's that his core ability to understand cause and effect was just broken. Okay, so if we're dealing with a fundamental failure of understanding, why is it so incredibly hard to correct with just simple facts and clear logic? Why do rational arguments so often seem to just bounce right off? Schopenhauer's answer here is really powerful. He says the real barrier isn't a lack of evidence or a problem with intellect. It's an abundance of ego. The true obstacle, he says, is plain old human vanity. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. When you get into one of these arguments, you might think you're both playing the same game, but you're not. The intelligent mind is on a quest to find truth, to get to some kind of clarity. The fool? They're playing a totally different game, protecting their pride and avoiding the humiliation of being wrong at all costs. I mean, for them, losing an argument isn't about learning something new. It's a personal attack. It's a public defeat. So when you present them with facts that contradict what they believe, they don't go, oh, interesting. They reject reason itself just to save face. Now, look, Schopenhauer wasn't the first person to wrestle with this problem. Not by a long shot. So let's take a quick peek at how this same exact insight has popped up again and again all throughout history. You see this pattern everywhere, don't you? From ancient Greece, with Socrates pretending he knew nothing just to gently guide people to their own conclusions, to King Solomon using fables, even to Shakespeare's court jesters, who could speak truth to power because it was hidden behind a mask of comedy. The lesson is always the same. When you're up against folly, direct wisdom often gets rejected. It needs a disguise. All right, so that brings us to the practical stuff. Let's turn to Schopenhauer's own toolkit for some actual, actionable advice on how to navigate these really tricky situations. So he gives us a set of 4 core tactics. And here's the thing you'll notice about all of them. They're not about winning, not at all. They're all designed to de-escalate conflict and, most importantly, to protect your own peace of mind. First up, and let's be honest, this one can be tough. Don't advertise your expertise. Don't walk into a conversation trying to prove how smart you are. See, a loud, forceful correction just makes people resent you. But a quiet, gentle one, that lets the other person save face, and it keeps you from becoming the target for their bruised ego. Second, you have to know when to walk away. Sometimes the absolute smartest move is to just not play the game. You can pause the discussion, change the subject, or literally just leave. This is not surrender. It's a strategic move to save your energy for battles that are actually worth fighting.
Now, if you do choose to engage, the key is to guide, not force. So instead of direct attacks, you use subtle navigation. A simple phrase like, that's an interesting perspective, can totally disarm them. Asking questions instead of making statements invites them to think for themselves instead of just getting defensive. You're leading them toward a new viewpoint, not shoving them.
And finally, when logic and reason have completely left the building, you appeal to something far more primal. Remember Schopenhauer's will, that powerful, irrational driver? It's way more persuasive than intellect. So you frame your point in terms of the personal risks or benefits to them. It's not about being manipulative, it's about being pragmatic. Okay, now for what might be the single most important part of this whole explainer. For Schopenhauer, the ultimate goal here isn't winning an argument. It's not even about changing someone's mind. It's something much, much deeper. The real goal is not to defeat the fool, but to use that interaction as a chance to practice self-mastery. Think about it. Every frustrating conversation suddenly becomes a training ground. It's a chance to strengthen your own patience, your powers of observation, and your emotional restraint. You're literally turning irritation into wisdom. So the crucial point is this. What other people think of you, your reputation, that's all external stuff. But your composure, your clarity, your character, that's internal. And if you focus on keeping your internal world calm and clear, the foolishness of others just loses its power over you. And this just completely reframes the whole purpose of being intelligent, doesn't it? It's not a weapon to win arguments and dominate other people. It's a tool that you use to stabilize difficult situations and, above all, to protect your own serenity, your own peace. Which really leaves us with a final thought to take away from all this. In a world that seems to be getting louder and more argumentative by the day, maybe the most intelligent move we can make isn't about winning the debate at all, but about knowing when and how to just be silent.